Okay, guys, so we're back full circle. Now we're back to like the beginning of the books for the next time around. So, this one's on machine dug wells. Here we go. So far, I've discussed the experience of our drilled wells sucking water directly from a lake and a hand dug well. Last up is our experience with a machine dug well here in Nova Scotia. We are both pretty skeptical people, so when the excavator contractor asked if I could douse for water, I said, nah, not me. Back 40 years ago, when I was building the main homestead, a local older gentleman offered to witch for water on the main property, and based on his recommendation, we drilled in the spot he indicated and had all kinds of water. I've always felt we could have bored anywhere on that property and hit water. But nonetheless, we had a high quality water source for our main homestead. 19 years ago, we had no worries about fresh water when we began homesteading on a lake in northern Saskatchewan. That lake was 4 miles long and 100 feet deep in places. But fast forward to now, and we were again faced with the prospect of finding fresh water for our home site. The contractor said to take a bent coat hanger or a forked willow or alder stick and hold it in a certain way which he demonstrated and walk slowly back and forth over the area. He seemed quite knowledgeable, but then he added that he was never able to witch for water. Not exactly inspirational. Nevertheless, I headed out to the woods to find a couple of properly forked limbs and began walking around. I slowly walked in a methodical grid pattern without registering any hits. It was frustrating. Those sticks are now somewhere out in the woods, having been given the hoe by yours truly. A few days later, I mentioned my dilemma to a man we had recently made friends with, and he said he could witch for water and we could too. He cut a coat hanger apart and formed 2 divining rods. Then we went out to his front lawn. As he walked around, his rods were crossing as he passed over various locations, indicating water. I took a turn and they seemed to cross a few times for me, but I wondered, was the process really working or was it the breeze moving the rods? I didn't have a lot of faith. Johanna took a turn and she had a few indications too. The next day we returned to our property for more work. I took my coat hanger rods out and gave them a try where I hoped we could have a well. After several minutes of walking a grid pattern, I had only one place where the rods crossed and I was not very hopeful. I placed a small branch among the other debris on the ground to secretly mark the spot, and then Johanna gave it a try. After a few minutes, I returned, and she was getting across of the rods in the same area as me. She had placed the marker 2 feet from where I had placed mine. Maybe this had promise after all. I don't believe in that stuff, so. We decided to dig a test hole with a big excavator. 3 feet down, then 5, then 7, dry gravel and sand coming out of the hole by the bucketful. Now 9 feet deep, still dry as a bone. This was discouraging. All I could envision was a dry hole in the homestead with no water. A couple more feet down, and the soil started to look a little damp, and maybe it was wishful thinking. More shovels and still nothing. Then the excavator stopped, and we saw the operator pointing to the hole. My gosh, water was flowing up and filling the hole. What a wonderful sight. He partially filled the hole back in for the night so the walls wouldn't collapse. The next morning, the digging began in earnest. We needed to dig a large hole that would easily accommodate the well crocks. Well crocks are reinforced concrete rings that fit together when stacked atop each other in the well. They form the well casing and come in a few standard sizes. The ones the contractor ordered were 30 inches high by 36 inches wide. They have an interlocking lip that keeps them aligned as a crock is placed on top of the previous one. If a tight seal is desired, a sealing putty can be placed around the circumference of the crock to create a watertight seal. The seal is very important on the last crocks and serves the same purpose as a well casting, so the surface water doesn't leach into our clean water. Surface water is undesirable because it can contain contaminants and bacteria. The excavator operator dug the hole as deep as he could go. That was essentially 17 feet down where he encountered bedrock. At that point, we had a strong flow of clear, clean water coming in from all directions. A dump truck's worth of clean, roughly 1 inch stone was brought in and the bucketfuls of material were carefully placed in the bottom of the hole by the excavator. Then the first crock was lowered to the bottom and a level was used to make sure the crock was sitting level. He carefully placed more stone around the crock. The purpose of the stone is to act as a coarse buffer and reservoir to allow water to easily collect and thereby fill the crock column. If we were to backfill with the material taken out of the hole, we would be sealing off our well from the majority of the water source, which defeats the purpose. Instead, let the water infiltrate and become a reservoir around all that loose stone. The excavator operator repeated the process several times, lowering in a crock and then placing clean 1-inch stone around the exterior of the crock. Once we had 3 crocks in place surrounded by clean stone, the dump truck and excavator went to our new quarry to fetch a load of clean bank run gravel to complete the remainder of the well. As each remaining crock was lowered into place, bank run gravel was used to backfill. We could have used the material that came out of the hole to backfill, but we were concerned there might be contamination from the top layer of the forest duff and felt it was better to err on the side of caution. This was our drinking water, after all. The area around the finished well was graded so the surface water would run away from the well. As a temporary water system, I installed the pitcher pump over the Nova Scotia well until I could get the line plumbed into the house. Plumbing from the well to our house was done the same way as in Maine, insulated PVC pipe and pitless adapter. I have to say I'm a bit shocked at how well the dowsing business worked. Quite magical. Again, I don't believe in that. Although I am so relieved and pleased to see water, I will grow weary of hearing Johanna crow about how she wields great powers now that she knows she can witch for water. Again, I don't believe in that stuff, so. But that was Machine Dug Wells out of the Self-Sufficient Backyard. And the next video is just going to be going over Faith First Farm and who we are and why we're doing what we're doing and that kind of thing. So, I'm going to get off from here and get this up there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.